Hey everyone, welcome. We are live. My name is Dana Lawrence. I'm joined by Dmitry Gritskevich, who is, are you founder or co-founder?
Co-founder and
Co-founder.
CEO. Yeah.
Co-founder and CEO of ComplyCo. This is the Technology Association of Oregon Fintech Bridge Show, where we have conversations with builders and leaders that shape the future of financial technology. So, Dmitry, welcome again. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for
Um,
having me. Really
yes,
fun show. Yeah.
yes. Let's dive in. And can you share a fun fact or recent win so the people can get to know you a little better?
Yeah, absolutely. A fun fact about me, I played a very obscure version of field hockey.
Hmm.
And I played it professionally when I was in high school. It was a lot of fun.
Wow.
But didn't lead to a long-term career, unfortunately. But
I am like literally laughing right now because we've had about your episode 17 of this show, and probably 10 of our guests have been professional athletes
really
before they
interesting.
founded a tech company.
I,
Like,
there's something in the
what
water
is
there.
that
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. It is maybe it's the type of personality, right? That
Like
forces you to
competitive,
be. Yeah, probably.
adrenaline, I don't
Yep.
know,
Yeah.
detail oriented, but
We
like
don't like to sleep. All those things. Yeah, that's right.
I I literally can't believe you said that. But it tracks. Like literally so many of the people we've spoken to. I am not. My co-host who has other things going on,
Yeah.
she was a professional rugby player and she now coaches a men's team. So I'm sharing a fun fact about her. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, I really don't have anything that exciting. Let's see. I also have to come up with multiple fun facts every time I do
But
this.
it's episode 17,
I
so
I kinda like the fun facts are
yeah.
starting to dwindle and diminish.
Well, it'll be new for me. So why don't
Oh, it'll
yeah,
be
you
new for
can
you.
yeah.
Okay. Um, let's see. I really enjoy doing hot yoga at this point in my life, and it is a wonderful, like, stress reduction type of thing to do, especially so I lead fintech compliance for bank fintech partnerships, and they are super fun to work in and also a lot of regulatory scrutiny. So I go to hot yoga a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, hopefully,
Yeah.
we can free up more of your time, all right, so you can
I'm
enjoy more of that
Yes, I'm
hot
quite
yoga.
excited. I'm quite excited to share what you're working on with ComplyCo. So why don't we, or actually, I'll just do my intro. Dana Lawrence, I'm a board member for Technology Association of Oregon. This is an organization that supports the tech industry, and it's fintech, but it's also climate tech, health tech, chips, like high tech, all the tech things. We have a physical footprint in Oregon and Southwest Washington, but I'm really hoping that the fintech community particularly can be a global center of excellence. So you are absolutely welcome to join, even though we have Oregon in the name. I also lead fintech at Pacific West Bank, which is a wonderful business bank in Portland, Oregon. So that is me. Dmitry, can you introduce yourself in more detail for our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Dmitry Gritskevich, co-founder and CEO of ComplyCo. We're building an observability, reporting, and orchestration layer for compliance data. Prior to co-founding ComplyCo, I co-founded a consumer fintech called H&M Bradley. Learned a lot about consumer finance through that. Had a pleasure of working with my current co-founder, one of my current co-founders, Ron DiGiacomo, who taught me a lot about compliance. He was a former compliance officer, chief compliance officer at JP Morgan. So he's seen a lot of things. And I started my career in financial services in an investment bank, and then kind of found my way back into fintech or finance by initially joining a hardware startup actually, and then going back to
Hmm.
fintech
Hmm.
a few years after that. But yeah.
I didn't realize you had all that experience. I've just known you as
Yeah.
ComplyCo, so that's fantastic. What I'm actually curious what motivated you and your co-founder to build a business for compliance? And thank you, by the way,
Yeah.
but why compliance of all things?
Well, I think a lot of my learnings would come from the fintech that we built before, and working with sponsor banks, and really seeing how now the way products, financial products, are built and delivered are through technology, through developers, right, product people, and compliance and product and technology don't necessarily jive well together, right, or haven't at least. And we thought there would be a really great thing to do to deliver a kind of a bridge, right, between compliance and technology. And how do we do that? By introducing more visibility, more controls, more ways compliance officers can understand, oversee the products that they are ultimately responsible for, right?
Mhm.
The reason why we have all these regulations and laws, and we have to follow them. They didn't just come out of the blue, right? They came out of because either businesses or consumers got hurt at some point,
Right.
right, in financial services. And so, and a lot of what compliance is understanding, are my products compliant at the moment,
Mhm.
right? And we felt like compliance officers end up working with very stale data, very manual, a lot of manual processes, right? Understanding
Yes.
how do we really test some of these, monitor these controls, right, that we have in place, and we're trying to automate that.
Can you give a little bit more of an explanation? You said it's an orchestration layer and you help with compliance testing. Can you break that
Yeah,
down into like a more plain
absolutely.
explanation and a
Yeah,
little bit more detailed explanation? Like, just thinking of the bank compliance officers out there or the fintech risk and compliance officers out there. How does that work and what does it do for us?
absolutely. Well, first we maybe take a step back and kind of understand the status of the world right now, right? The state of the world of compliance right now. We find that compliance data lives in so many different places, right? You have a bunch of different systems that you end up overseeing, or multiple partners that if you're a sponsor bank working with. That creates this abstraction layer that you don't necessarily have the data at your fingertips to understand whether your product is compliant, right? Let's just say you offer a simple uh, deposit account, whether it's a business or consumer. You have a number of laws that you have to follow, and you usually put together a plan and policies and procedures for this product, and understand what your inherent risks are, and then you hope everything goes well, essentially, right? And the way to monitor and understand what the state of compliance is right at the moment is by manually sampling certain data, right? Understanding, kind of digging into the product, right? And so that creates a lot of manual processes, a lot of ways of how do we produce these reports, right, for the board, for our governance, for the FDIC, or any other regulator or internal auditor, or you name it, right? How do we actually do all of that? And that creates a lot of Excel work, Word
Mhm.
work, right? And we think that all of that data that lives in these disparate systems needs to be centralized. It needs to be organized in a way that a machine or an engine can read it, right? So
Mhm.
we create this ontology layer, so to speak, and then we can process and analyze that data to produce reports to you in real time on a population basis, so you know exactly what is going on with your products, all of your products,
Mhm.
and at any given point in time. And that's kind of what we mean by this kind of observability. Orchestration means that when we store that data, we can also process it in a certain way. Or right now, there's a lot of AI solutions out there that are relatively niche, right?
Mhm.
So one of the things that we're exploring is potentially orchestrating or sending that data to AI providers for analysis, right, and returning
Mhm.
that information to you. And that way you don't have to integrate with 10 different providers, which
Mhm.
is one of the other issues, right, on compliance, is that there's
Mhm.
vendor fatigue that's
Yeah,
getting to people. Yeah.
right. The So working in a highly regulated industry, we're subject to a lot of regulatory examinations, internal and external audits, and then also compliance monitoring and testing. And my background is I've had a couple stints in internal audit, and the whole premise is usually you're testing a sample. And a lot of it is like a human reading and thinking and kind of ticking and tying things. And the thought of having more automated control testing and continuous automated control testing is it's I love it. Like, I mean, that's a very niche thing to geek out on,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the amount of time that could be saved because there's so many other things that we can focus our time on if we can speed up some of that. I think we could get more coverage. We
Mhm.
could get more focus on what actually are the most important risks for an organization so we could be more efficient as a business. We could spend more time on appropriate engagement with like audit committee or the executive leadership team work, and that's something I think the relationships and the persuasion and having a correct culture of compliance, those things are, I think, distinctly human things that we could focus our time on more so than, you know, kind of the ticking and tying, which is important to, you know, coming up as an internal auditor. Those are good things to learn and to like do. But I think there's a lot of ways that like those could be automated and we could focus on other things. I don't know.
And
Is that kind of where you're getting at? Because that
absolutely,
mind
absolutely.
blowing.
We
Hmm.
we view that as what you just mentioned, right? Automating the ticking and tying, right? But also think of the to your point about freeing up time for other things, right? Freeing up time for unlocking more revenue opportunities, right? You are
Hmm.
now able to analyze, and onboard more partners potentially, right? And
Hmm.
knowing how those partners are engaging with you, in real
Yes.
time. Also, reduction of risk, right? We think of,
Yes.
if banks are in the business of controlling risk, right?
Hmm.
Whether it's on the underwriting side, right, or on the compliance side to make sure that they're following laws and regulations. Well, that risk controls are in place because if your risk profile is, a certain graph, right, of some
Hmm.
sort, right, and your normal way of identifying or discovering that impact or discovering the risk is through a manual process, you're going
Hmm.
to miss some high impact events
You
potentially,
could, yeah.
right? How could you shave those off, right? By introducing automation, introducing real-time visibility, and
Hmm.
ultimately reducing your entire risk profile, right, from a compliance standpoint.
And think about if you could get more control testing coverage, you could identify those big problems that might be lurking in your
Yeah.
customer population across any regulation. And
Sure.
then you could focus on fixing things as opposed to
Mhm.
simply control testing.
Yep. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, we like to say that the regulators don't, you don't get in trouble because you broke the rules, right? You get in trouble because you don't know that you broke the rules, right? And the
All the
regulators find
things.
out about, yeah.
Yeah. It kind of goes back to that the thought process of like a compliance management system. There's the law. You need to figure out how you're going to do that law at your organization, policies, procedures, training, controls, automated controls, manual controls, and then you need to be testing it. You need to be identifying issues, remediating issues. You have internal audits, and like that whole ecosystem is what you are judged on or audited on by the regulators. And it's not just, are you doing it correctly or not? It's, do you have that whole infrastructure in place? Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yes.
Um, where can people connect with you? Are you out at the trade shows? Are you out in the world? Where are you at with your product?
Yes, we are, you can connect with us on, through ComplyCo.com, right?
Mhm.
You can request a demo there. We're pretty responsive. I'm on LinkedIn, on email. You can email at Dmitry at ComplyCo.com. Pretty straightforward. We are attending all the kind of the bigger shows, right? So we were just at Fintech Meetup a couple months ago, meeting with banks and fintechs, and I'm traveling all over. Right, I'll be in New York over the summer. We're in San Francisco as well. That's where the team is based. So yeah,
Okay,
we're pretty available. Talk to
cool.
us. We would love to explore how we could help.
Okay. I can't remember if I prepped you on this next question, so if you need a
Please.
minute, you let me
No,
know,
no.
but
Yes.
the whole kind of inspiration for the show is we are rolling out a fintech focused community through Technology Association of
Yeah.
Oregon. And again, I mentioned we have Oregon in the name. We do in-person events in Oregon and Southwest Washington, but we're very much a global community of people. And I guess I have two questions. The first question is, do you have any advice or hopes for us as we build out this community?
Yep.
And then the number two is, will you come to Portland and participate in a compliance, like a little compliance conference with us?
I'll answer the second one absolutely, right? You tell me when and where, and I'll be there. I live in Los Angeles, so not too
Okay.
far in terms of flying, same time zone, right? So it makes it pretty easy. And then on the hopes and kind of for what you guys are doing, I think supporting new innovative solutions, right? As you know, banks are relatively conservative in general, right? I think it's hard for them to adopt new vendors. Although new vendors, new technology could really help them. And I think supporting that is really important. I think also one other thing is starting to work on more common language and common frameworks and common standards, right? For whether it's within compliance or other areas of fintech, that could help not just the banks, right, and vendors, could help the entire industry, right, to be on the same page, understanding, how we can engage better, right? Understanding, some of the common standards on the data sharing, right? Things like that will absolutely help move the industry forward, because we think some of the legacy providers, right, we really siloed the data and made it a lot more difficult for banks to kind of whether it's switch vendors, onboard new vendors, share data, or even process data for their internal purposes. So thinking through that is I think associations like yours could really make a difference.
I love that. All right. Any last words before we close out the show?
Well, thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to having more chats like this.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dmitry. Thanks everyone for joining us. Check out ComplyCo.com and techoregon.org for more information. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.